Welcome to The Road Less Traveled with Tiffany Rosenbaum. This podcast is about sharing the success and failure of entrepreneurs. Join in and learn from others' mistakes so you don't have to go through the same hardships in business. Now let's welcome your host, business coach, real estate investor, and proud wife and mom, Tiffany Rosenbaum.
Welcome back to another episode of The Road Less Traveled. We are so excited to have Stephen Fox on today. He is a co-founder of Media Upkeep, and it is amazing the things he is doing with this company. He's been in business for about a decade, and he is changing the landscape for property management companies and their marketing journey. So wait and listen. We're excited to have him. Stephen, I appreciate you coming on today. I'm excited to discuss your companies, the size of it, things like that. Why don't you introduce yourself and explain your company first, just from your mouth, and then we'll go in and discuss a little bit about it.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, my company is Upkeep Media. I'm the co-founder. We started in 2015, so it's been nearly a decade now. And we specialize in working with property management companies to help you bring on more properties to manage. So we work specifically with third-party property managers that are looking to attract owners of rental properties that are looking to hire a property management company. So everything we do is online based. Usually how we work is we'll look at the property management company, see what you have going on that's been working, what you are not doing that you should be doing. And then from there, we'll help you create a marketing plan and execute that marketing plan to help you grow your business. So right now, we work with over 250 property management companies nationwide. We're a team of 47. So everyone on our team is specifically trained for the property management industry. And basically our goal is to help property management companies grow.
Now, what made you want to get into the marketing field, though? It's been 15 years. What said, hey, I want to start a marketing firm?
Yeah,
what made it happen?
It happened out of desperation.
Okay.
So I was a CPA. I used to work at one of the big four accounting firms, EY.
Okay. Yeah.
And to be brutally honest, I hated what I was doing. So I had studied university. I wrote the CPA exam, did that for, I think it was like 6+ years of schooling. And at the end of it, I was there like, I literally have to like grit my teeth just to get out of bed type of thing. Like it was a painful experience. I was working 60, 70 hours a week doing something I hated. And at the time, one of my good friends who I played basketball with and went to high school with, he was working in finance and he also hated what he was doing. So we were like, okay, what are we going to do? Because at this point we're in our mid-20s and we're like, life is a very long time, very long if you hate what you're doing. So we literally just started going online being like, what can I do to make money? Because I was like, I need to do something to make money. Obviously I have no money. I'm early 20s or mid-20s. So we ended up finding a course online, and it was a free course about how to make money online. Like the most, scammy title you can find. But it was free. So I was like, hey, whatever, I'll learn. I've always been a big fan of learning, let's say. I like to educate myself on different topics. So I took that course, and that course basically then referred me to a different course that was paid, which is now I know affiliate marketing, basically. Right? But at the time I was like, kind of desperate. And I think it was $2,000 for the course, which at the time when you're making, I think I was making like $38,000 working like 60 hours a week for a big four accounting firm, which everyone thinks you make a ton of money working at those. People at the top do. The people at the bottom make nothing and work their entire lives for it. But anyway, so the $2,000, I was like, this is really big. Let me see if my friend would be down to do this with me. So we agreed like, okay, we're going to split the cost of this and we're just going to, try it out. So we bought the course. Thankfully, the course was pretty good because there are a lot of bad ones out there as well. But the course in this case actually was very good. And then we did the course and it taught us not everything we need to know about SEO, but it gave us a good baseline understanding. And then from there, we started to look more and more into that topic and eventually started to rank some of our own websites. So we started building sites and ranking them. and making money off of affiliate income. And we weren't big time in affiliate space or anything like that, but it gave us that taste of like, oh, damn, there's actually people out there that will give you money if you're able to get in front of them. And after a while, we were like, wait, what if we did this for actual businesses that want clients? So at that point, I had just earned my CPA title. Literally the day that because you have to work 2 years after passing the exam to officially be accredited, at least in Canada, which is where I'm located. And basically the day I got the hours where I was officially a CPA, I called my boss and I said, I'm quitting. And myself and my now business partner decided, let's go for it. And then to make things a little more fun or a little crazier, we decided we're going to go to Latin America for 4 months. We're going to work from there and we're going to see if we can build something. By the time that trip is done, if we haven't built anything, my plan was I'm going to go get a job. I'm a CPA, so I can go get a job in accounting anywhere. So I was actually planning I was going to move to California and get a job if things didn't go right. And after the 4 months, we came back and we actually had some clients. So we're like, okay, I think there might be something here to this. And from there, we kind of just have added on ever since. Now, in our first year in business, we weren't focused on property management. At that time, it was really like, whoever wants to pay us anything for any type of help, we're desperate here, so we'll take it. But what happened was after our first year in business, we had, I'm going to call it 8 clients or something of that nature. And around 3 or 4 of them were in property management. And the 3 or 4 that we had in property management, we were able to get pretty decent results for. And we noticed that it was very different than what was required for like a typical local company, in the sense that for property management, it's not actually like a local business where all of your clients are physically located in your city, right? It's a case where you have owners that are out of state, that are nowhere near where your business is, that you want to look to market to. So after that first year, we kind of made a pivot and we were like, what if we just focus in on property management, learn this industry really well, and be able to deliver a service that not many other marketing agencies out there can actually deliver. And that's kind of how we came to be. So I'm going to say it was a lot by luck and a little by being smart.
That's amazing. Now, the question I have is, I'm going to go back a little bit. You had a friend like, hey, let's go into business together. That doesn't always work. So what kind of discussion happened to make sure this friendship could deal with the business side, like real honest feedback, like, hey, I don't like this or I don't agree with this. What did y'all do to make sure this ended up being a success?
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. I've seen a lot of times where that doesn't work, specifically because you are friends. In this case, I won't say that we had that all ironed out before we started. I think the personalities meshed very well. And I think that's what has led it to work. We're both, let's say, fairly laid back and open-minded. So I think that is a big thing where you see a lot of times where 2 partners just butt heads a lot. And often that's why it doesn't end up working. So I'd say that's kind of what has allowed us to succeed. Did we have everything ironed out before? No. Like I said before, a lot of luck. It's not always like everything was calculated. But in this case, I think it was really just like we both had a common goal of we need to do something other than what we're doing right now because we both feel lost. So yeah, I think it was really just like a the right blend of personality types.
So I'm going to hone in a little bit further on that, on the partnership. When a disagreement happens, what do y'all do? Because there's got to be times that y'all disagree. Nobody sees eye to eye all the time. So what do y'all do when y'all disagree on something in the business?
Yeah. So we'll usually talk it out, kind of list the pros and cons of each, like literally write them down. And then each kind of share our viewpoint on it. And then if we both really can't decide, at this point, we'll bring in some of our management team. And we'll ask them, like, what do you think about this particular situation? How do you think we should handle it? And then see what each one of them will say. If, let's say we have 3 people that think of one thing and one the other, the 3 will win. If it's like goes both ways, then it just goes to further discussion, really, and kind of comes down to like which person is more adamant on that subject. We also both have at this point areas where we kind of own the business. So, for example, my business partner does more of the business development typically, whereas I'm more on the operational side. So if it's something that's an operational issue, at the end of the day, I'll usually have the final word. And if it's something on the business development side, he'll have the final word. And that really is just like, sometimes as the business owner, you have to give up something you think might be right so that everyone can, move in the right direction.
Oh yeah, and move forward so it's not stalemate. Now I want to go back a little bit because you said we went into 2 different areas. Like you're over operations, he's over BDM. Now the question I have on that, when you first started 15 years ago, now what did y'all both do? Did y'all kind of overlap a little bit, or how did you decide who went to what?
And no, at the time we definitely overlapped. So when we first started, it was literally us doing all the work.
Mm-hmm.
So us doing all the sales, all the operations, everything. We only brought on our first team member maybe about 6 months after we started, and it was a remote team member. So yeah, at the time we were both doing the exact same thing. It was really just like, okay, we have this workload, let's split it up. You're going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it was just really whatever came in and figuring it out that day, what to do. Over time, what happened was we realized we're going to do much better if we have someone that can take ownership over this, and then another person that can take ownership over this side of the business. And we started to split it up more as we had more team members, as we had more demand. Because the truth is, especially when you're starting a business, generally there's not enough demand that you're going to spend all day just doing operations, right?
It's true.
You need to create sales. So at that time, it was just all hands on deck we both need to be focusing a set amount of time.
Get the company off the road runway, right? And take the
especially the way that we started was through cold calling. So this is a decade ago now.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, cold calling can still work. But back then, especially, we had no other way. It was like we had no money. Let's not forget that part. We had $0. So it was all through cold calling. And if you've ever met myself or my business partner, Alex, neither of us are extremely extroverted. Neither of us like, let's say, cold calling either. And to say like, you're going to do all of the cold calling, that wasn't really an option. It was like, we'll both do it because we're suffering together.
Oh, I like that.
So I literally remember, I think it was like the day we quit our jobs. Let's say the first weekend that we were like, okay, we're going to start this thing. We went and we're like, hey, we got a cold call. We called, and the end of the day, I was like, holy crap, what did I just do? It's like, that was so terrible. I remember just feeling like rejected for an entire day straight. And Alex as well was like completely rejected. And then we read something online about when you're doing cold calls, a way to make it a little bit easier mentally is you have to have some sort of visual representation of the progress that you've made. So what we did is we went and we bought a set of marbles. There was like, I forget what there was. Let's say there's like 100 marbles. And we each had 50. We were like, okay, each day we're each going to make 50 cold calls to start. And each time we'd make a call, we'd put a marble in a jar. So throughout the day, eventually you get to the 50 calls and all the marbles are in there and you're like, okay, I'm done for the day. So that's, long story short, like that's how it kind of came to be. It wasn't where we were all, we were completely segregated from the start. It was really over time, we ended up breaking down like, okay, you're going to focus on this and I'll focus in this area.
Well, that's usually how it is because at the beginning, like you said, especially if the business has no money, it's like all hands on deck. How do we get this off the runway? How do we get this up in the air and keep going? Now, you said something that about 6 months in, you hired your first remote team member. What made the decision that said, okay, it's time? Because a lot of the viewers, that's a big question. They're like, how do I know when it's right to hire? How do I know that I need to keep just plugging along for a little bit? How did y'all make the decision? What happened?
Yeah, so for us, it was, I mean, we had some clients who were like, okay, we can actually afford to hire somebody now. And B, it was, we saw that there are certain tasks we were doing over and over again that, someone with very little skill set could do, as long as you train them. So at that point, we were like, okay, it's ridiculous for us to be spending our time doing whatever it was at the time. Let's say it was setting up uh, email addresses, whatever it might have been. We were like, we can literally train someone from the Philippines to do this. At the time, I think it was probably like $4 an hour or something like that. This is a decade ago. But basically, we're like, okay, if we can train them to do this, then we can spend more time focusing on bringing on clients. So I really believe that any business owner, until you reach a certain revenue level, 80% of your time should be focused on sales and business development. I just, it doesn't make sense to be focused on getting all of your operations perfectly standardized if you don't have business to standardize it for in the first place. So I'm not saying don't focus on like your SOPs. You should be focusing on that from day one, but that should not be where the bulk of your time is going.
Yeah, because if you don't have clients, guess what? You don't have a business. You don't have business.
Exactly. Like, what's the point of being in business if you don't have any clients to serve?
Oh, 100%. So with that first hire, okay, this is where people are like, I'm scared to hire, what are all the mistakes that happen? What did you learn? What are some mistakes that y'all made with your first hire?
To be honest, with the first hire, he's still with us today. So I think we did pretty good.
You did?
And I'd say that's dumb luck. But over the years, I'd say one of the biggest mistakes we've made from a team perspective. So I'll give you an example. We had a team member that we brought in, I think around 2 years into business, when we decided, okay, we're going to bring all of our development in-house. So when we first started, we had to use outside vendors because myself and my business partner are not developers ourselves. But we finally connected with someone, we brought him in, and he was very good. So we got, again, like I said, dumb luck. But he was very good with development. And as the business started to scale, we were like, okay, we need to scale the development team as well. So we were like, okay, we're going to go hire someone. And then this person we brought in that's basically leading all our development initiatives now is going to train them. And that's how we'll kind of scale it up, right? And so we hired someone, 6 months goes by, we found out that person wasn't really doing much, so we had to let them go. We figured, okay, it wasn't the right fit. Then we hired another person. Again, kind of the same story. Around 6 months later, we realized that person's not really doing anything either. And we did this like 3 or 4 times until we finally realized it wasn't the people we were hiring. It was the fact that we tried to take, in this case, a developer and have them become a manager. And I think that's a really big mistake that we made.
I think a lot of businesses make that mistake. I have, because they're like, well, you can just level someone up. But in reality, those are 2 different people. And you only made it 4. I think I probably made it a few more times than that. It's because you're like trying to make it easy on the hiring aspect where you don't have to go into that. Where do you find your people? Because that's another question, Stephen, that people are like, I hire and I turn over. Where are you finding? Because you've said twice now, dumb luck. And I don't think that's dumb luck. I think there's a process behind this or something. Where do you go find your A players?
Yeah. So it depends. There's certain team members we have that are in Canada, and then there's other team members we have that are out of country, basically overseas. So we have a team from Philippines. So there's a site called onlinejobs.ph, where we hire directly from that site. to be honest, we haven't really hired much from the Philippines over the last couple of years. We started moving away from that just because, in our experience, the tasks from the that we were having people from the Philippines do were lower end tasks, like a lot of data entry, and we don't have as much of a demand for that. Where we have found really good talent is Latin America. So we use a headhunter agency from Latin America. There's actually two we've used. One is called Somewhere,
Okay.
and there's another one called, I think it's LATAM, like Latin America, LATAM Hire,
Okay.
that we've used as well. And then for Canada, I mean, we'll just post on job boards generally, and then we also go to universities. So with what we do, we create a lot of content, and for our content, we always want it to be written by actual writers. So we'll hire straight out of like creative writing graduate programs out of Canadian universities. So we have, at this point, we've established connections with like different professors in different universities. We'll post on university job boards as well, and then we'll also post on sites like Indeed, where we'll find other team members as well. But for people that are, let's say, outside of North America, generally we'll go, at this point, we'll just go to, there's recruiting agencies for outside of, basically for like overseas worker, whether that be Latin America, South Africa, Eastern Europe, or Philippines.
I love that you said for the Philippines, you kind of moved away from that because of the task, because I find that every country is actually better at different things. Because Latin America, I get high quality talent that does really high end things. My accounting staff, the back end, is from the Philippines, because each one has a culture as well, and some can think really outside of the box and some can't. It's like just a checkbox. So yeah. I love that you said that, and I use a recruiter as well because it makes it easier, get it done, and having relationships with those recruiters are so important. How many, for some people viewing, they're like, remote team members, what? How many remote team members do you have, Stephen?
Right now, in Canada, we're about 20, roughly 25. I don't know the exact head count, whether it's 27, 25. And then the rest would be remote team members. Majority of those being Latin America and Eastern Europe.
Okay. And now, when you're managing so many people, what are the metrics that you're going through? Because this is a big thing. People are like, how do you know they're working? How do you know they're doing what they need to do? What are the metrics that your company measures for the marketing agency?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different areas that we hire for, but I'll give you an example of one, okay? So let's say that it is a person that's in charge of editing articles. Mm-hmm. In that case, all of our editors are in Canada, but still it's the same exact principle. We want to look at what's the average number of articles they should be editing in an 8-hour time frame. So at this point, we've been doing this for decades. So we have a very good idea of, okay, one person should be able to edit 4 articles in edit, optimize, and post 4 articles in an 8-hour period. So then when we hire, we're able to track, okay, how many articles is this person editing, optimizing, and posting? And are they within the average? Like if we know our average is 4 articles in an 8-hour time period and someone's doing 3, that could be okay. There might be a reason for that. Mm-hmm. If we see someone's doing 1, there's a good chance that person's not working, right? Or so another thing would be we do a lot of manual outreach to build backlinks for websites. So that we will hire from like Latin America generally. For that, we can track how many emails are being sent out, how many prospects have been reached out to, and eventually how many links have we actually built. So ultimately, I think it's about having clear-cut deliverables that they have to work on and monitoring kind of like what metrics have they been hitting. Have they been hitting the number of emails that they're supposed to be sending out? Have they been hitting the number of, backlinks that have been built? So you're going to have something. If you just give them a job that's very generic or that's like not easy to measure, I don't think that's the best place for a remote team member.
I find, and what's interesting, like I love having you on, Stephen, because I find as a bunch of property management companies I talk to and other businesses, they say marketing is the hardest thing to track. It's like the hardest thing for KPIs and measurables, and like, All right, so is this how it's supposed to be? What do you find the biggest issue is for these companies that are trying to do marketing? I mean, you're in this day to day. What's the biggest issue?
To be honest, the biggest issue is they don't track leads,
Are you
and
serious?
where those leads are coming from.
Okay.
So we'll see a lot of companies that, for example, run paid ads,
Mm-hmm.
and they send it to like the homepage of their website. And then you ask them, how is it performing? They say, I think it's good. We got calls that came in this month, but they have no idea whether that call came in through an organic search, meaning they came from Google or they came from the paid ad. Now, to track it from organic is a little more difficult, but to track from paid ads, that's super easy. The call should be recorded. The contact forms should be saved as well. Like that, you should be able to track. So I think that's honestly at the most basic level, the biggest issue that we see for like 95% of the companies out there is like they have no idea where their leads are coming from, and they're not tracking them carefully.
Wow. So how would you say if someone's going to come in and do Google Ads, how would you say they need to track them to be successful?
Well, one, you should have call recording. So
100%.
you can have it so that it's a specific phone number that shows up when someone clicks on your paid ad. Two is generally I'd recommend sending them to like dedicated landing pages for your paid ad campaign. And then from there, you can see which contact form the contact form submission came through. So if you're running a paid ad and you have the phone number that's being recorded and you have the contact form submission that's being saved as well, you know if it came from the paid ad, because the only ways for them to really reach out to you is either going to be by phone or by contact form submission, right? So that at the most basic level, like that's how you would track a paid ad campaign properly in terms of, when they clicked on the ad, did they end up reaching out or not?
100%. So, I mean, that's Google Ads, but let's talk about the thing that's so overwhelming for everybody. Google Ads, you can pay, they click, it's easier to track. Let's talk about social media, because I know everybody's saying you have to do social media. The viewers are like, but how do you monetize that? All these different things, and social media is overwhelming. Like, what would you say besides just Google Ads, but would you recommend a business to do social media?
Are we talking all businesses or property management here?
Both.
Okay. Property management, I would say I do not recommend focusing on social media until much later in your marketing journey. Generally, you should be focusing on search engines to begin with for a property manager. And this is where I was talking about before, where it's a little bit different than a typical local business, right? So when you run ads on social media, you have to choose a geographic location.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning if you're in Phoenix, you have to run those ads to your local Phoenix market, right? You're not going to run a national campaign like as a local Phoenix property management company. So when you're running those ads, you're going to be running just to Phoenix, you're going to be missing out on a large percentage of your target audience, all of the owners that are not physically located in Phoenix. And if you're in property management, a large percentage of your owners are not physically located in your market, right? So because of that, if we look at the other avenue you have, which is search engines, regardless of where someone's situated, meaning if it's an out-of-state investor from California and they go online, they're looking up something related to a rental property or property management in Phoenix, they'll find your business. So because of that, I generally recommend focusing on search engines to begin with. Then once you have a lot of people finding you through search engines, and when I say search engines, I'm talking about Google, I'm talking about YouTube. YouTube's the second largest search engine in the world. But once you have a lot of people finding you through search engines, that's when you can start to use social media better, and you can use it for retargeting. So people that have already found you online, but didn't reach out to become a lead. So now you can retarget them with ads everywhere they're going online in social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, whatever social media channel, you name it, you can run retargeting ads. That's where I'd recommend starting to utilize social media. Okay. Now, if we're talking just in terms of like organic postings, mm-hmm. I don't believe that's ever really going to bring you an owner. Maybe you'll get one, but it's not a viable marketing strategy.
Does it help with search engines though, because there's more out there?
Not really.
Okay.
There's not a lot of conclusive evidence that posting on social media is going to help your SEO.
So talk to
what
all
it,
these businesses out there, because this is huge. Everybody's saying you have to do this to be successful. You have to do this. So why would you say back off the social media and do these things first? And how do they know that social media is... So they shouldn't play into the social media world until they get the search engine up. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
And then once
So
they
it's
do
not that
that...
you should never do it, but for 99% of property management companies out there, you're probably focusing your resources in the wrong area. So first focus in on getting a lot of people to find you online, and then utilize social media to retarget to them. With social media, the only people that are going to see your organic posts are people that already know about your business. They have to be like if we're looking at Facebook, for example, they have to be following your Facebook page to even see your posts. Then on top of that, Facebook, I think it was about 4 years ago, came out and they said they're going to give a lot less visibility to organic posts because they want you paying to use, like as a business, they want you paying them, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole reason Facebook exists in the first place. It's so that you pay for the ads. So to just go out and put organic posts and think that that's really going to bring you in clients, you're probably wasting your time. Now, where it can be beneficial is if you do have a large following, and let's say they found you via your offline marketing, and they go and they decide to follow you on Facebook, and they do see some of your posts, it doesn't hurt. Why it might help is eventually they're for search, why it might help is eventually they might go to Google and type in your brand name, right? So they might see your posts everywhere. For example, they go online, they type in Rosenbaum Realty. Having brand name searches is beneficial for your SEO. The reason why is brand name searches kind of reveals to Google, okay, this is obviously a little more of an established company because we see there's a lot of searches for their company every month. So if they see that Rosenbaum Realty gets 500 searches a month, but the other company down the street gets like 10 searches a month, it gives them a pretty good idea of like, okay, Rosenbaum Realty is probably a little bit more established, probably a little bit more trustworthy because they're more established. So it can help you in that sense, but in general, like just posting organically on Facebook, it's not going to have huge value to your SEO campaign.
I love that you said that. I agree with that. But you see everybody saying you have to do it. So I love that you came on and talked about that. What's something, going back to the business realm a little bit, what's something that you have learned from starting a business, been in business for 15 years, that you wish you would have known when you started?
It's not all roses and sunshine and rainbows. I guess I would say that. So I think one thing you learn being in business is you develop a thicker skin. Now, it's, business, you're going to have hard talks. You're going to have to deal with clients that maybe are a little bit more difficult to deal with. So on that note, I'd say you also learn you don't want to work with everybody. Not everyone is the right fit for your business. There's certain personalities, I think we were talking about with business partners, but it's the same thing with your customers. Not all personality types blend well.
So true.
So I think it's you really want to get selective with who you work with so that you can do a good job for them, because you can be in business and literally make yourself crazy if you work with the wrong people and end up making no money. You'll find that pretty quick too, that the clients that give you the most headaches usually bring you the least revenue and profit.
Oh, 100%. I like how you said that. So when did you decide that you had to be selective with your clients, intentional with your clients? When did you decide, or when did you learn that, oh, maybe I should look at this?
Probably about 2 years into the business, after we worked with, it was one client in particular that we're just like, man, anytime we speak with them, it's just like in one ear, out the other. And they just really don't listen to what we have to say, let's say, we'll put it that way. And they weren't a very happy person. I'll just put it that way. And it was like every time we had to have a call with them, it was like you're losing sleep the night before because or even the week before, you're like, oh my God, I have to speak to this person. This is terrible. So for us, it became, we put in kind of what we call like the no asshole policy.
I like
If
that.
we're speaking with someone and we can tell this person is just like, even if they really want to work with us, but we're like, they just do not seem like a nice person, we generally will tell them like, this probably isn't going to be a good fit. I don't think we can really help you. And I think doing that is part of what's allowed us to grow to the size we're at now, because you don't waste your time on the clients that, let's say, are going to give you a really difficult time with every single little thing. And that kind of slowed down the progress of their own campaign because they're worried about every single little tiny detail. So I'd say that's probably the biggest lesson that you learn over time is like, not everyone is your ideal client. So you have to get really specific with who it is you want to work with, what their goals are, what their personality type is as well.
How many clients do you turn away, Stephen, off of this? Like, you're like, this is just not a good fit. You're not going to like me. Just realizing that, how often do you turn away clients?
Yeah, pretty often. And it's not always, it's not because of the no asshole policy. A lot of the times it's really just because of they're not the right, either they don't have the right mindset of growth, meaning like if a client is like, I want to double my business in the next 6 months, we're probably not the right fit. We're not a company that's going to sell you something just to sell you it. Like our goal is really to provide like a long-term service where we can be a marketing partner for your company. So in terms of how many clients, like percentage-wise, probably about, honestly, like 50% of the leads that we get in, where we're just like, this probably isn't a good fit. And it might also just be their company size at the time. So there's a lot of clients that'll come to us and we're like, what we do doesn't make sense for your business at this point in time. So an example would be someone comes to us and they're brand new and they don't have like a huge, they don't have any budget, let's say, to spend on marketing. But they're like, you know what, I have this little bit of savings. I think I can make it work. We're generally going to tell them like, I don't think that's a good idea. I think at this point, boots on the ground is the best route for you. And once you grow, then you can come back. And we do have a lot of clients also that were in that exact situation. We spoke to them and they come back a year later or 2 years later. There's a few I can think of off the top of my head, and we've been working with them now for like 5 years, but they got their business to a certain point and then came back. And I think it just works much better when we're honest from the start, rather than, there's a lot of marketing agencies out there that unfortunately will take whoever's willing to spend money with them, and they work with them maybe for like 6 months and then they leave. Our goal is always to keep clients for the long run.
Well, and also marketing is not an overnight thing. Like, it's the long game. Like, it's not, hey, I'm going to see all this tomorrow or I'm going to see all this in a week. It's like you need to plan 6, a year. I mean, you're dealing with a long time frame. And I didn't realize that when I first got into business. I'm like, marketing, come on, I should see something tomorrow, right? Even now I give a little bit of a hard time sometimes because I'm like, come on.
Thinking in decades is the best way to kind of approach it mindset-wise. Now, I'm not saying it should take decades for marketing to work, of course not. But having that longer term mindset is really what's going to set you apart from like the 99% of other business owners out there that are like, I need this tomorrow. Those ones, they just don't end up lasting. They're too much instant gratification. It's like building a business is tough.
Oh, it is.
That you're going to go and you're going to grow 100% in a year. It can happen, but it's not the average business that does that.
No, and a lot of times when a business grows 100%, like they're putting some stress on that business that sometimes what is happening is the marketing is coming in, but guess what? The clients are going out the back door because the operations aren't up. What I see is people want to grow, but at the same time, you got to be able to handle it on the operations side because otherwise you're just burning money. I love this picture of money on fire, and I'm like, we don't burn money. Make sure whatever we bring on, we can handle and we can service and do right. Like you said, it's very important to take care of the clients. And so you have that long-term relationship with the clients.
Yeah, 100%. It's tough because as a business owner, you always want growth and you don't really want to be saying no to clients that want to sign up. But at the same time, you got to think of your long-term of your reputation. Your reputation is everything. So if you take on a ton of clients and they all have a terrible experience, well, guess what? Next year, you're not going to be able to bring on a ton of clients because word's going to get around. So it's definitely a tough situation, and it's something it's a delicate balance between the two. I like to always try to plan for growth, but even then, there's only so much you can forecast. So you can have a rough idea, but things can change, especially in the real estate industry. Markets can change, right? So it's definitely tough. I think one thing that's key as a business owner, though, is having the ability to kind of plug and play new employees quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So to give you an idea from a marketing agency perspective, it's very similar to most service businesses, right? You get a client, you need more people to handle the increased demand. So the key is you need to be able to hire somebody relatively quickly. So you should have protocols in place to have proper job descriptions already built out before you even need the position. Know exactly where your sources are to go to actually post those jobs. Know what your hiring questions are going to be, like what your interview questions are going to be, and then have a training program so that you can get someone up and running within 2 to 3 weeks. That's what we aim for, at least, where it's like within 2 to 3 weeks of our intensive training, you will be able to hit the ground running. You're going to be shadowed by an existing team member that's been here for a long time, but you'll have a very good, let's say, foundation that you can build on to the point where like you're comfortable at least providing the service at the most basic level with the supervision of someone more senior. And then eventually we'll kind of take off the training wheels and you can handle things on your own.
I love that you said that because it is training wheels. When you bring someone into your business, it takes time for them to understand it, especially if you're hiring someone that's never been in it. Especially property management. I find property management is like a different language. Like with the remote team members, I used to hire someone that had no experience. And I'm like, oh, we're going to change this. I want experience. And sometimes you can get away with not having experience, but you got to realize the training process is going to be longer a lot of times, depending on the business. And I love that you said that someone shadows them, because I do the same thing, because it's actually building trust too. Because then they have someone they can ask questions to, and then that person can be like, hey, what would you do? It brings this trust factor within the team and within the business, and you build, and then they realize they want to stay for a lot longer because you just invested so much time in them. It's not like, the fire hose. And in property management, I bet you see this a lot, where someone goes, hey, just put them in the seat, have the fire hose shoot on them, and be like, hey, just go off and do it. I find that a lot in property management, and I'm like, oh, that's got to stop. It's painful too.
No, what you said is exactly what we see also, where if you train someone properly, they're much more likely to stay with your company for a longer time. When we interview people, one of the most common reasons we get for why are you looking to change positions is, I mean, there's two. One is always like there's no opportunity for growth, which is understandable. But the second one is there's no formal training. So like I was just put into my job, and now I'm getting in trouble because I'm not doing things properly, but I don't know what I was supposed to do in the first place. And it's normal. Like if you think of it from the perspective of the employee, it's like to go to a new position is already nerve-wracking. And then to be put in that position without the proper training and expected to do a good job, it's like, you're running a real uphill battle there. So
you are, and it's setting up for failure, right? The more training in Starbucks, I love what they do. They have a 30, 60, 90-day program, and they sell coffee, guys. And it's like, but they spend more money in training and onboarding than in their advertising, because they realize that they put money into their people, they stay. And then guess what? That actually gives tenfold back, because you're not having the turnover, and then you're not having to spend money on more hiring. So the training, I completely agree with you there. And it sets them up for failure if you don't spend the time with them. Because then you're asking them questions. Hey, was it done? And they say yes. And then you go check, and then it's done wrong. And then you have to, it's a mess. But when you have someone sitting there with them, I love how you said that. I think that's genius, because that's what we do as well. And it's like, it builds that trust that you need within a business. A business is a relationship. And, what are you going to do if you're married? You're building that trust. You're spending time and training to make sure. So I love that. I really like that you said that.
And ultimately, they take care of your clients, right? So if you spend all your money on marketing, but you're not doing a good job servicing them, you're going to lose those clients anyways. If you spend your time and money training your employees and you do a good job for your clients, you're much more likely to get other clients being referred to you.
100%. I love that. Now, For the viewers, Stephen, what would you tell them if they're going through this, they're starting up a business like you started up and they're struggling? What would you tell them? What's something you can tell them to get them to hold on a little bit longer?
Well, two things. One, you got to figure out if it's worth holding on a little bit longer, I will say. Because there's certain, it's just as much about what game you decide to play as how you play it, right? If you're going after something where there's no viable market, you're probably better off pivoting. But let's say that you have a business where it's in a viable market, you know it can be done. I think you need to take a hard look at yourself and be like, am I doing what's required to actually get this business in the place it needs to be? So I speak with some friends that have businesses, and sometimes they complain about, not growing, or I can't get it to like the level it needs to be at. And then I'm like, well, what are you doing to actually get there? And it's like crickets. And it's like, I'm not putting myself out there. I'm not getting in front of the people I need to be in front of. I'm kind of just hoping that things are going to come to me. Like, that's not the way that business works, especially when you're first starting out and you're, haven't reached a point where you're making it successfully, let's say, or profitably. At that point, like, you really need to hustle. There's no like shortcut to it. It's like you got to do what it takes to get your name out there, to get in front of people, and to service those people and do a good job.
No, 100%. It's a grind. Like, if you're expecting to work 40 hours and start a business, I would say you're not in the go back to a job, and which is okay, but you got to decide what you want. Because if you're starting a business, I remember, and I imagine you could say the same thing, you're working 80, 100-hour works to make sure that this gets off the ground. Because to get a business off the ground, it is not, hey, clock in, clock out type thing. It's, how do we get this bigger? How do we get more? Where do I need to go to get more clients? What do I need to do on the operations side? I mean, you're thinking about it. I remember 10 o'clock at night, 2 a.m., many, many hours, just blood, sweat, and tears, I guess is the way to say it. Would you explain it the same way?
Yeah, my first year, I probably worked like 60-hour weeks. Were they always productive? No, definitely not.
100%.
And I think that's going to happen. I think I like to go with the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I think when you're first starting out, it's very rare that you're going to be able to work that 40-hour work week, like 9 to 5 a.m., 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Yeah, it's more like 9 to 5 a.m.
Yeah.
But basically, your first year is going to be a grind.
Yes.
Now, doesn't mean it stays like that. Now I work 40 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
You can't catch me on a weekend working. Now, is my brain always working on business? Yes. There's times where on a Saturday, I'll listen to a specific podcast or I'll read a particular book, but I do my best to shut off when I'm not supposed to be working, because I believe it's just as important to recharge as it is to go full force. But when you're starting off, yeah, it's you got to do everything at the end of the day. Like, delegating comes once you have work to delegate. Once you have money you can actually pay to hire people. At first, you don't have that. So it is really just like, it's a grind.
It is. But I do like how you said you've been in business 15 years, and how you say you tried, how much? A decade. Sorry, a decade. And you say you try to shut off now, which I do think is important. My dad was just teasing me because I didn't look at my emails yesterday. And I'm like, there is a day I do try not to look at my emails. And he's like, no, that's good too. But, and when you do get to a point where you can do that, I agree with you. But at the beginning, yeah, it's a grind. And that's what people have to understand. I think people look at social media and be like, hey, they have this nice life. But a lot of times you have to look at what took to get there. Like, you talk about Elon Musk, you talk about any of these people, they know how to go longer and harder and grind longer than most of us. It just is what it is. The longer you're willing to grind, the better you're going to be off. Another question, what is the worst advice you've ever received, Stephen?
Cool. Worst advice I've ever received? I'd say probably worst advice I ever received was to work a job and then later in life start a business off of what you learned at that job. Now, the reason I say that, I think it can be done, and don't get me wrong, like, the person that gave it had good intentions, but I think if you really want to start a business and you're very entrepreneurial, you can figure it out. And you're going to waste a lot of time working at that job to eventually then have to do it. So don't spend 5, 10 years working a job with the mindset of like, eventually I'm going to do this for myself. If you absolutely don't know anything about an industry, go work that job for like 6 months. You'll learn enough that you can then go and try to do it yourself. You'll learn as you go. You can offer clients services for free. You'll learn as you provide that service for free. But don't delay things if you know that like you absolutely want to be going into business yourself.
I think the question is if you absolutely know you want to go into business yourself, it's not like hey, I can go on vacation tomorrow and just not work. It's, you got to decide these things. What's the best advice you've ever received, Stephen?
Best advice I ever received was to niche down. So this is it was actually my mother-in-law's IT guy. And he had a very successful business where he was just working with one niche. And at the time, this was in our first year of business where we were kind of servicing whoever would pay us. And he was the one that pointed out like, hey, you've told me a couple times that you have, half your clients are in property management. Why aren't you just focusing on that? And my worry was like, well, if I just focus on one niche, I'm going to be limiting my upside, right? But yes, if you're trying to build a multi-billion-dollar company, that's one thing. But most businesses out there are not that. You can make a very nice living by serving just one niche. And it applies for property management, applies for any industry like property management. Focus on one market. You don't need to focus on the entire United States to have a really successful business. So focusing on one niche allows you to really get specific with your marketing messaging. It allows you to scale up your operations easier. It allows you to train your staff. It allows you to basically just like build a name for yourself within a community. So I don't know if you've ever heard of like, you need to have 1,000 true fans to have a successful business, but it's much easier to have 1,000 true fans if you're specific to one niche.
Oh, I like that. I haven't heard that, but I do like that. Okay. So I see a lot of books behind you, Stephen, and I love books. So tell us, what is the one book that you would recommend for our viewers to read to help them in the entrepreneurial journey?
There's a lot of books that are good, but I'd probably go. Can I go with 3? Actually,
Yeah, 100%. I'm the same way, so I love that you just said that.
Right. So the first is probably a book called Ready, Fire, Aim by Michael Masterson.
Okay.
The second one, from a marketing standpoint, which I think if you're looking to start a business is very key in terms of how you're going to get clients, would be $100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozi.
That one's a good one.
And the third is probably one you may not have heard of. It's called The 10 Pillars of Wealth by Alex Becker. But that one is also very interesting because he talks about, as you go through your entrepreneurial journey, how you're going to kind of stack your endeavors and what your goals should be to eventually build, let's call it generational wealth.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like it. Okay. Do you have any other advice that you would recommend for our viewers that you want to say?
Honestly, if you're looking to start a business or you're just in the newer stages of business, you got to know why you're in business. Is it because you're just looking to make money, or is it because you actually are passionate, or not even passionate, but you really want to start something on your own? You want to have that freedom of working for yourself autonomously. Because if it's just to make money, like there are jobs out there that will pay you good money. If it's because you really want the lifestyle of being your own boss, that's another thing. So get clear on your why, get clear on what it is that's going to motivate you. Because if you don't have that, when things are really tough, it's going to make it that much more difficult to continue.
I love it. Yes. You got to know your why. I look at my why all the time. 100%. Stephen, I love that you came on today. I love our discussion. I think I could talk to you forever about all these things. There's a lot in business that we could talk about, but I appreciate you coming on. If someone wants to reach out to you or your company, where's the best way to find you?
For sure. You can either reach out to me on LinkedIn, Steven with a PH, so STEPHEN Fox. You can email me at steven.fox@upkeepmedia.com, or you can just visit our website at upkeepmedia.com. To any property management company out there, we offer a free property management lead gen session. So it's an educational call where we educate you on the online marketing landscape for property management companies. If you go to our website, you'll see that there's a start here button. Fill out the form on that page and book time that's convenient for you, and a member of our team will reach out at the time that you book and walk you through that.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate it today. Thank you so much, Steven.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in today to The Road Less Traveled. If you're organizing an event, workshop, or simply planning something exciting and would like to have Tiffany Rosenbaum join you, or want to have her on your podcast, visit TiffanyMRosenbaum.com and click on Book Tiffany to get started.